welcome back to my channel. Alright, so this video today was inspired by a question that I received about what I found to be my most painful tattoo placement versus my least painful tattoo placement. And I had to really think about my least painful ones. I kind of have a good idea about my most painful ones, but my least painful ones I really had to think about. So for today's video, I thought I would touch on my top 5 least painful tattoo placements versus my top 5 most painful tattoo placements. And something to keep in mind, pain varies from person to person. What is painful for me may not be painful for you. What is painful for you may not be for me. It's wild how the body responds to tattoos. So if I sit here and say that such a placement is not painful for me and you're sitting there going like, are you out of your mind? Just keep that in mind. Let's start with my least painful tattoo placements. Also, these are not really in any order. These are just the ones that came to mind. So I'm not gonna rank them on like, oh, this was absolutely like a breeze, a walk in the park. These are just the ones that I thought of. So no ranks. But the first one would be the back of the forearm. So like my plague doctor over here, my sunflower over here, a little bit of chickadee bird over there. That to me was one of the least painful placements for me to get a tattoo, especially this plague doctor. I don't know what it was, but he did not hurt at all. This was one of 2 tattoos where I've actually briefly fallen asleep while getting it done. I'm pretty sure it's because this area is tougher than say like the area of your arm that doesn't see the sun a lot or doesn't see a whole lot of exposure compared to the outer part of your arm. All I know is for me, it was not that bad. Going off of that though, my inner forearm really wasn't that bad either. So over here with my tarot card, over here with my squirrel, the forearm just in general, because I do think it gets a lot of exposure to the elements and just everyday occurrences, it's tougher than certain areas that don't see the same kind of exposure. So for me, the forearms, though I will say the back of my forearm, definitely way less sensitive than the inner forearm. But again, inner forearm, not that bad. Next we have bicep. So over here, my crow sitting on a skull. Then over here we have my raccoon with my possum. Honestly, not that bad. Now these sessions were broken up. I know about myself that I can't sit still for a long session. So for anyone that's like, oh, I sat for a 5 or 6 hour session, no, your girl's over here going like, yo, I need a break after 2 because I just can't sit still that long. So these were broken up into line work and then into color. And even with this one, because of the amount of detail on it, this was a 3rd one because after some time I just needed a break to come back and finish it another day. But all in all, the bicep is not that bad. Again, I'm pretty sure there's some kind of correlation to more exposure than say your inner bicep, and that makes it a little bit more easy to handle. This next one, I feel like some people might fight me on, and that is the calves. So my calves, they're tattooed on the back, on the outer side, and on the inside. And honestly, none of it was bad. The worst part about getting your calf done is the fact that your legs jump. And you're sitting there trying to like focus so that your legs won't jump while your tattoo artist is tattooing you. And you're just like, don't do it, don't do it. And your legs are just like moving. And you're like, I don't mean it, I'm so sorry. And of course your artist is aware. But for me, my calves have not been bad at all, especially the outside of my calves and the back of my calves. If we're gonna say that they're any kind of spice level, definitely the inside of my calves were a little bit more so than those other placements. But for me, I have found my calves to be a pretty pleasant experience to get done. And then my 5th spot, again, might just come as a shock to some people, or people might fight me on it, my neck. For those that don't know, the back of my neck is done. Now, there is definitely a difference between the back of your neck, your throat, and then like the side of your neck. I only have the back of my neck done. It was done back in 2016, so it's been a bit since I got it done. And it also took way longer than it should have, but that's beside the point. For me though, I did not find that tattoo to be awful. Luckily for me, I was in a position where my face was just on a pillow and I could just lay there. Like, you know, when you go get a massage, your head goes through like a hole in the pillow. I got to do that. It was pretty pleasant, other than the fact that it took way longer than it should have. And then it started to get a little spicy at the end just because I was tired. But the back of my neck, honestly did not find it to be terrible. Okay, now that I've told you my least painful placements, let's move on to the spicy side of things. Most painful tattoo placements. It will not come as a shock to anyone when I say that my top most painful placement for a tattoo was my ditch. Right here, where my little hedgehog is, it hurt so bad. In fact, I have been terrified to get this ditch done because of how bad this one hurt. Now, I will say if I do go through, which I will eventually, get this one done, I'm using numbing cream all the way. Absolutely. Numbing cream does help, not for a long period of time, but it helps some. But when I got this hedgehog done, I was not prepared for how bad it would hurt. Because originally this hedgehog was gonna go where this chickadee is, but then the hedgehog ended up being too big for that placement, so then we just put it over my ditch. I hadn't done enough research on what getting your ditch tattooed was like. I was unprepared, and wow. It still haunts me to this day. It was rough. Going off of a similar placement, we have the elbow. Now, my direct elbow has not been done yet. Not sure it will be. It probably will at some point. I just don't know when or what will go there. But around the elbow, and there's some parts on the elbow, it was an experience. Now keep in mind, for this one specifically, I did use numbing cream, but it did wear off. And the big thing about getting your elbow done is when you get to that bone area, and you can just feel the vibration from the machine just like go up and down your arm. It is the strangest feeling. To me, it was not pleasant at all. And again, it will be a while before I get this one done, or get directly on the elbow for this one done. I know what it's like on the edges. I don't even know what it's like on directly on it. All right, so this next one I feel like some people are gonna disagree with me on, but again, we're all different. My thighs. My thighs were pretty rough. Not the worst, but they were rough. And I think one of the big things is that my right thigh was my first big tattoo. I'd been getting little ones up until that point. Little just like didn't take too long to get them done. My right thigh was my first big one, and it was rough. It was the first time that I truly experienced, does anyone else experience when you're getting a tattoo, waves of hot and cold? It was the very first time that I ever experienced that. 1 second I was hot, 1 second I was freezing, and just back and forth. And that's your body like trying to regulate and deal with things. And then the same thing happened with my left thigh. It was more so just my body's reaction to getting tattooed there. The tattoo itself wasn't horrible. It did get a little sore. It got pretty sore after a while. It was not a fun time for me. And again, especially the more you move up the thigh or the closer you get to your knee, the more painful it is. Directly in the center of your thigh was not bad, but there were moments where I'd creep up a little bit more and it would get closer to my knee. That's when it was pretty gnarly. Next is my inner bicep. So over here with my bunny. Now, I do need to add here that I did have numbing cream on this spot because I knew it was going to be rough. And again, this one was broken up into 2 sessions. I knew I would not be able to stick it out for the whole thing in one go. It looks tiny enough. There are plenty of people out there going like, you couldn't sit through that? And my answer is no, I couldn't. It's just how I am, and I know my body well enough now to know what I can and cannot sit through. So it was broken up into 2 sessions. We did the line work first, and then I came back and did the color. I did numbing cream both times. Both times the numbing cream did wear off, especially for the color part. It wore off a good way into it. The line work, I got through the majority of it before I started to feel anything, and even then it was bearable. But when the color came around, it wore off about 30 minutes into it, and we still had a good deal more to do. It was not fun. That's the best way to put it. This is a very sensitive area. It doesn't get a lot of exposure. It's definitely like thinner skin through here. And it was not a fun time, but it ended up being cute. So I'm glad that I got it done there. Glad I used numbing cream. Definitely, if you're gonna try out numbing cream, be sure to check out a video that I did regarding it, but also ask your tattoo artist if it's okay. A lot of artists are not okay with it. A lot of artists are. Just make sure that you get their thoughts before you just use it. And then my 5th most painful spot, and I do have a little bit of like a note for this, was my back shoulder. So back here on the shoulder blade, I have some hydrangeas. They're absolutely gorgeous. The thing about this tattoo is that it didn't hurt in the same way that other tattoos do. It was just more sore than anything. It was like I got rug burn, and then I kept getting rug burn on top of the rug burn. And that's also not a fun feeling, but I will also say, the shoulder blade, that is not a fun time. That's kind of equivalent to getting your elbow tattooed. Like, again, I don't have my direct elbow done, but I have like the little bones around it. done, and that was the equivalent to getting your shoulder blade done. You just kind of feel it in other parts of your body and you're like, haha, that's not fun. I don't like that. So while it didn't hurt the same way other tattoos do, it was just really sore during the whole process. It's a different kind of hurt. And again, we all feel tattoos differently. You know, maybe you feel the rug burn effect more often than you do like the cat scratch effect that a lot of people equate tattoos to. For me, that soreness that comes along with getting a tattoo, it can be pretty brutal. So these are my current top 5 least painful tattoo placements versus my top 5 most painful tattoo placements. Again, I got a lot more skin to cover, so this will change over the years, except for my ditch. I don't think that's going to change ever. Pretty sure that's going to hold that top spot for a very long time. Not sure it'll relinquish it ever. But let me know in the comments below what your most painful placement was versus your least painful placement if you've got multiple tattoos. If you only have like 1 or 2, what was your experience like with them? Leave them in the comments below. Again, everyone is different. This is not to deter anyone from getting a tattoo in a specific spot, but I do get asked often, you know, what was your most painful one, or what's a good placement for a first tattoo? These are just my experiences. Special thank you to my patrons. You can help support the channel on Patreon while having access to videos early, viewing patron-only content, and more. But that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Go on down there, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so YouTube will let you know when I upload next. But until next time, bye all!